Hey, what's up? Hello. If you're new here, my name is Kayla and you are watching Kayla's Bookish Vibes. Let me close the door to my laundry room so that you don't hear my dryer. You can't still hear it. It's possible though. Anyway, today's video is a very impromptu video where I want to share some books that I've been reading lately. I haven't really been able to do a monthly reading wrap up the past few months because I haven't really read enough books to do a monthly reading wrap up. I have been reading far less than I usually do, but I have also been reading some really good books that I still want to talk about and tell you about and give my thoughts and opinions on. So today's video, we're just going to be talking about some of the books that I have been reading lately, my thoughts and opinions on them. And yeah, I have a few recommendations in this list. If it feels like I'm talking very fast or I'm a little chaotic, it's because I'm trying to film this video before my baby wakes up and I'm not really sure how much time I have. So let's get started. The first book, this is in no particular order, is The Love Lyric by Christina Forrest. It's right here. This is the third book in the Green Sisters series. I finally got around to reading it. I'm kind of sad because that means that my journey with the Green Sisters is over. I ended up giving this book 3.75, I believe 3.75. I did really enjoy this book, but not as much as The Neighbor Favor. So if we had to rank the series, to me, my favorite was The Neighbor Favor, and then it was The Love Lyric, and then it was The Partner Plot. This is a standalone interconnected series, and the order of the books are as follows: 1, 2, and 3. If you haven't read this series and you really enjoy contemporary romances that are sweet, there's a little bit of spice in them, but not a lot, then I highly recommend this series if you haven't checked them out. I really feel like everyone who really enjoys those types of books and who wants to read romances about Black characters written by a Black author has already read this series. So I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but just in case you don't know, yeah, I highly recommend this series. It's very sweet. All of the ladies are just being loved correctly, and it's just really sweet stories. I love Christina Forrest's writing. She writes a lot of YA romance as well, and I've read some of her YA romance. Highly recommend those as well. And if you have young people in your life who need a little romance, you know, highly recommend it. Now That I Found You by Christina Forrest was also really good, and that one is a YA. I do believe she has a new YA coming out shortly, and I've requested the ARC on NetGalley. We'll see if I get it. I don't know. But anyway, today we're talking about The Love Lyric. Again, this is the third book in the series, and we are following Iris, who is the oldest sister of the 3 siblings. All of the sisters are named after flowers. Iris's story was what I thought it would be in some ways, but also not what I thought it would be. So her story is a little bit more serious. We talk a lot about grief in this book because Iris is a widow. She was widowed very young, and that is hinted at in the 2 previous books. Like, we do get a little bit of her backstory. We do know that she lost her husband, the father of her child, and she is a widow. So she deals a lot with grief. I appreciate the fact that Christina Forrest discussed that in this book. Because that was hinted at in the other 2 books, I feel like it would have been a little weird had I picked this book up and this one was as light and fluffy as the other 2, because Iris never really gave light and fluffy. Like, even when you saw her character in the other 2 books, she gave very much older sister, takes care of everyone, single mom, going through grief, right? Like, she gave that in the other 2 books. When we did see her character, she was always very serious. So I kind of expected her book to be a bit more serious, and it was. We do, like I said, talk a lot about grief and how she's processing that. On the male main character side of things, he is a pop star. And so with him, we're kind of getting to know about him through like his career. He has everything going for him for his career, but there's also some growth that he wants to see in his career, and then who he is outside of that. The things that I didn't like about this book, the only thing that I didn't really like that kept me from giving it like a 4-star, I didn't really feel like the male main character and the female main character meshed well together. Like, their lifestyles didn't really go well together, in my personal opinion. Now, this is fiction, this is not real life, but if these characters were real, I just don't feel like they would make a good match. And that's just my personal opinion. However, I did enjoy reading more about Iris, getting to know more about her. And I did enjoy the male main character separate from the relationship. Like, I enjoyed his character as a person. I just didn't necessarily enjoy them together. So that's why I didn't get this one a 4. But I did enjoy it. I love Christina Forrest's writing, and I'm kind of sad that the Green Sister series is complete because now I can't look forward to another book. One actually took me 2 months to read because I have been starting books and putting them down and moving on to other books, and then there have been moments where I just didn't have time to read it all. So it literally took me 2 months to read that book. And my husband actually asked me, like, why is it taking you so long to read this book? Are you not liking it? And I'm like, yeah, it is taking me a pretty long time. I read that one physically, but I did enjoy it. I'm just gonna put the rest of the books on the screen so that I don't have to clean up after myself. We're trying to do this fast, efficient. The next book I have is The Attic Child. I wanna say this author's name is, I don't wanna get the author's name wrong. I'll put it on the screen. I read this as a buddy read with Aaliyah, with Bookmark by Aaliyah here on YouTube. I will leave that reading blog link down below. I really enjoyed that book. That was historical fiction. I loved it. It was a dual POV. Something else that I loved is that it's historical fiction, but it's not Black American historical fiction, which is typically the historical fiction that I gravitate towards. This one takes place over in the UK. So we're talking about African history, and we're also talking about, I guess, like, I don't know what Black people are called in Britain and London, but their history as it pertains to them getting to London and not to America. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and it made me realize that I don't read enough about Black history outside of Black people in the United States of America. Obviously, Black people are all over the world, not just in the US, which means our history is all over the world, not just in the US. And this book made me realize that I'm actually interested in learning about Black history outside of Black American history. So if you want to know more about my thoughts on that book and a better synopsis on it, it's been a while since I read it. I will leave that link down below, and you can watch the video where I actually delve into what the book is about. Sorry. The next book I read was 24 Seconds From Now by Jason Reynolds. I loved this book. I gave this one 5 stars. It was either 4.5 or 5 stars. I loved it. This is kind of like a coming of age story, but from a young male, a young boy's perspective. Typically we get a lot of coming of age stories with this subject matter, and it's usually from the girl's point of view. It's usually from a teenage girl. I love the fact that Jason wrote it from a teenage boy's perspective. I will be buying copies of this book because I'm raising 2 Black boys, and they're going to need this book one day. I'm going to need the assistance of this book one day. So I will be getting copies of that to add to their curated book collection that I have going on for them. I loved the fact that Jason wrote this book and it didn't feel gross. It didn't feel creepy. Being in the mind of a teenage boy can be kind of creepy, especially when it's written by a grown-ass man, you know? But Jason wrote this in a way that was very tasteful, and that wasn't creepy at all. It wasn't gross at all. It was actually very endearing. And I loved the way that our main character's community rallied around him. I loved the way that they showed up for him. Not just his parents, but like his sister and his grandmother and his friends. And there was a community around this young man as he was deciding to make a very big decision about his sex life. So in this book, it is a coming of age story, and he's deciding to take it to the next step with his girlfriend, whom he loves. And I thought it was done in a very tasteful way. Highly recommend this book if you're into YA. You have to be into YA because you are in the mind of a teenage boy, okay? Next we have So This Is Love. This book is written by Maiko. I want to say is how you pronounce her name. I could be pronouncing it wrong. But I will put the book and the author's name here on the screen. This is an indie author. I've been trying, one of my goals for this year is to read more books by indie authors, and I do that typically by using my Kindle and getting books off of Kindle Unlimited. And this is an author that I have read from before, so I wanted to give her a new book or her new release a try. This one is, I think it's a full-length novel. It was only about 280 pages. It didn't take me long to read at all, but I did enjoy this book. I ended up giving it 3.5. This book kind of reminded me of the love lyric and the premise just a little bit, except without like the heavier points. So there was no talk of grief in this book or anything like that. But this book is about a young lady who falls in love with a pop star. I think he's either pop or R&B. But she works in the beauty industry, and Iris, if you didn't know, in the love lyric also works in the beauty industry. Anyway, she works in the beauty industry. She runs into the artist at a concert one day. They end up connecting later on down the road, and things take off from there. It is a romance. I enjoyed it. The one thing I didn't necessarily enjoy was sometimes it felt like going from chapter to chapter, it wasn't as fluid or as cohesive, and there were times where it kind of felt like big jumps going from chapter to chapter. But I did really enjoy this book. It was a short read. It was like a feel good time. There wasn't a lot of spice. So if you're someone who likes really spicy books, this one is not spicy. That like, I don't even remember if there's a sex scene. If there is, it's like one at the end. But majority of this book, it's not spice heavy, which I personally enjoy, and I enjoyed this book. Highly recommend if you're looking for books on KU. This is a good one to pick up. So the last book on my list is my favorite book on the list. I gave this one 5 stars and I highly recommend it. This is a speculative horror novel. I know I say on my channel all the time, I don't read horror. And obviously I do. Obviously I read horror, and a lot of times when I read the horror, I love the horror. Okay, this one is called Listen to Your Sister. I will leave it here on the screen. This is a new release. It came out this year, I believe in February. I ate it up. I ate it up. We get 3 siblings. We have the oldest sister, whose name is Kala. She gives very much older sister vibes. She's always taking care of her brothers, trying to keep them out of trouble, out of harm's way, keep them protected. And then we have the middle child, the middle sibling, which I can't even recall his name, which very on brand for a middle sibling. He has middle child syndrome. He's always kind of like off doing his own thing, really just staying to himself. The fact that I can't remember his name is going to irritate me though, because isn't that not on brand for a middle child? No one ever remembers the middle child's name. As a middle child, I can say that. And then there is the youngest, the youngest sibling, Jamie. Jamie is always into something, okay? Jamie is always doing what they call in the book, Jamie shit. Jamie is always into something. And who has to bail him out? Kala, the oldest sister. I myself, being the oldest sister, but also the middle child, can relate to a lot of the things happening in this book as far as the sibling dynamic is concerned. I loved it. It was horrifying. This is not a book to read if you are a scaredy cat. If you are a scaredy cat, I do not recommend this book. The visuals that I was getting through this book, very creepy, very eerie, very trippy. Like there's a nightmare involved and you can't really tell, is this part of the nightmare? Is this part of reality? It's trippy, and I loved that about this book. I love the sibling dynamic that you get between the 3 siblings. If you are a sibling yourself, then you know you communicate with your siblings in a very specific way. You and your siblings have a way of communicating that only truly you understand, especially if you grew up with your siblings. And I love witnessing other siblings communicate, because I know that me and my siblings have a very specific way of communicating. And when I can witness that in a different sibling group, I just love to see that happening. I love to see that with my husband and his sister, anybody, honestly, even my best friend and her brother. Like, I just love seeing siblings communicate because I know that is a very special bond. And I loved watching these 3 siblings communicate in their own special way. They are all very funny. Sometimes in a very inappropriate way. Jamie is inappropriate. He is a teenage boy. There were times where I read his chapters and I felt like, Jamie, what are you talking about? And then I had to remember Jamie is 17, and then it would make sense. I was like, yeah, I guess a 17-year-old boy would say these types of things. And then you got Kala's point of view, who is, I believe she's like 30. She had to grow up very young. She had to parent her siblings when she was just a child herself, which is something that is explored. Like, what happens when you have to parent someone and you are still just a child yourself? Specifically, what happens to the Black women who are trying to protect the Black boys and Black men in their lives? What do they have to sacrifice? What is it costing them to protect the people that they love in their life? That is discussed in this book. Racism is discussed in this book. Okay, I definitely need to interject here, but something that I noticed that happens a lot, especially in the publishing industry, is whenever a book is horror and written by a Black author and deals with racism, they automatically compare it to Jordan Peele. Everything is, if you are a fan of Get Out, then you'll enjoy this book. I will say that's what they said about this book, and I personally cannot compare this book to a Jordan Peele-esque movie. This actually more closely resembles the movie Sinners that was just recently released by Ryan Coogler and with Michael B. Jordan in it. Absolutely loves that movie. Highly recommend that you check it out if you haven't seen it. But this book more closely resembles that of Sinners. Totally different time period, but definitely still deals with racism, and the horror elements also more closely aligned as far as like the gore and whatnot, more closely aligned with that of Sinners. So if Sinners is a movie that you enjoyed, and you enjoyed what the movie had to say on racism and how it tackled it using the horror genre, then I think you will really enjoy this. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. 5 stars. If you are a fan of Tananarive, if you are a fan of River Solomon's Model Home, I don't know where that book is. It's somewhere on the shelf. I think you would really enjoy this. Specifically Model Home by River Solomon, because that book, if you've read it and then you're familiar, also explores sibling dynamics, and it's also a horror novel. So I think if you really enjoyed Model Home by River Solomon, you're going to eat this book up. This book is also blackity black, black, black. So there are a lot of black themes, a lot of black things happening in this book, where if you didn't grow up black, some things could just be missed and you wouldn't necessarily understand, you know, but that's okay. I think you should still read this book even if you're not black. So yeah, highly recommend that book. If you don't read any other book on this list and you are into horror, you have to be into horror, because if you're not gonna like this book. If you're into horror and you don't read any other book on this list, you need to read that one. Highly recommend that one. Loved it down. 5 stars. Probably my favorite book that I've read. I don't know. I've read some bangers in quarter 1. I read some bangers in quarter 1. Technically, I guess I've read this in quarter 2. So right now we'll say that's my favorite book of quarter 2 so far. I love it. Absolutely love it. Absolutely ate it up. Hopefully, if that wasn't on your radar, it is now. Those are all the books that I've been reading that I haven't really been able to incorporate into a lot of vlogs, or I haven't been able to give my reviews and thoughts on, that I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully we'll start to get back into some sort of like reading, vlogging situation where I can give you guys updates on what I'm reading and my thoughts on them in real time. But until then, this will have to do, what I've been reading lately. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of today's vlog. I'm kind of proud of myself for getting this done while she's nappy. Okay, who am I? A mother. Thank you so much for watching. If you did and you made it to the very end and you want to let me know, leave this emoji so I'll know that you stayed till the very end. That really helps out my channel when you watch the whole video through. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video.